Here we have a scale problem. Since there's a lot going on here, this seems like a good example of the type of problem where we should read and write down information as we come to it. So the first thing that we're told is that we have a model of the Space Shuttle Challenger with a scale of 1 to 64. Now what that means is that if the model is 1 foot long, for example, then the actual shuttle was 64 feet. What that tells me is if I want to go from the smaller, the model, to the larger, the actual, I would multiply by 64. But if I want to go from the bigger to the smaller, I would divide by 64. Now in part A, I'm told that the actual shuttle was 122 feet in length. The question then is, how long is the model? Well, as previously mentioned, we want to go from the real to the model, which means we want to get smaller. So with a scale of 1 to 64, that means we would have to divide 122 feet by 64 parts, and that works out to be, in decimal form, 1.90625. Now we have to carefully read the question. It says, don't write as a decimal answer in feet, which is what I have now, but rather write in number of feet with leftover inches. So whatever it is, it's definitely 1 foot something. The number of inches is going to be the decimal part of my answer. How much of a full foot that is? Well, 0.90625 times 12 is going to tell me how many inches in 0.90625 feet. And when I do that multiplication, I'll just kind of note that off to the side, that 0.90625 times 12 works out to be 10.875. So now I know that this leftover 0.90625 feet corresponds to 10.875 inches, which tells me, to the nearest inch, that the length of the model is about 1 foot 11 inches. Now in part B, we're asked to go in the other direction. The wingspan is 15 inches. We want to go from smaller to larger, which means we'd multiply by 64 since we're using the 1/64 scale. And 15 times 64 works out to be 960 inches. I'll read the question to make sure I answered it. Well, the question is, what was the wingspan of Challenger in feet? Well, to get from 960 inches to feet, we want to go to a bigger unit, so we need a smaller number, which means we need to divide that by 12, and 960 inches divided by 12 works out to be 80 feet.